Hi friends, I'm back. Okay, today I'm going to read a book called One Good Deed. And this was published by Scholastic. It was written by Terry Fields and it's illustrated by Deborah Melman. One Good Deed. Do you think you remember what a good deed is? This picture might give you a clue. Remember, pictures give us clues. We can figure it out. Even on sunny days, Lancaster Street seemed dark and gloomy. Neighbors did not smile at each other or talk to each other or help each other. But one day, as Jake climbed his mulberry tree to pick its ripe fruit, he saw old Mrs. Thompson outside. Suddenly, he had a thought he'd never thought before. I bet she's sad she can't climb trees. I could take her some of these delicious mulberries. So there she is. And then he was thinking about doing this. What do you think? Should he? How would that make his neighbor feel, Mrs. Thompson? How would she feel to receive some berries? When Jake arrived, Mrs. Thompson was surprised. She was delighted. She had enough fruit to make 2 mulberry pies. Look at those pies. Now, where did she get that fruit from? That's right. Think back. Jake brought her those berries. Then Mrs. Thompson had a thought she'd never thought before. I loved getting those mulberries. I bet Mr. Riley next door would like one of my pies. And there she goes, taking him a pie. And he receives it. How do you think that makes him feel? Can you tell he's smiling? And how does that make Mrs. Thompson feel? Can you tell she's smiling? I hope you're answering my questions. I need thinkers. Let's do the thinking together. When Mrs. Thompson arrived, Mr. Riley was surprised. Mr. Riley was delighted. As he ate the delicious pie, he looked out the window and watched the kids next door playing ball. Suddenly, he saw the ball land on the roof of his garage. If you look closely up here, you'll see the ball and the net. Remember what game that is that they are playing? Basketball, yeah. Then he had a thought. Now this is Mr. Riley. He had a thought. He's thinking. It was a thought he'd never thought before. I bet I could help them. I could take my ladder and get their ball. Remember, the boys' basketball was stuck on the neighbor's rooftop. Who can really do them a good deed? Mr. Riley, to the rescue. When Mr. Riley handed them back their ball, Jeffrey and Joshua were surprised. They were delighted. As they tossed it back and forth, they saw Mr. Lee hobbling on crutches to his front door. Then they had a thought they'd never thought before. Mr. Lee can't rake the leaves in his yard. But we could. All right, take a closer look at Mr. Lee. He happens to have had an accident, or maybe he saw his doctor to fix something in his ankle or his foot. He's got a cast on it. All right, so then the boys had this thought. It came to their mind. Did they just let it pass out of their mind? No. They took action. They did something about it. And there they go. They took their rakes out, probably out of the garage or the shed, and they brought them over to Mr. Lee's yard. And take a look. When the boys arrived with their rakes, Mr. Lee was surprised. Mr. Lee was delighted. Soon they were joined by Sammy Cohen from next door, carrying a rake. My computer's broken, so I can't finish my homework right now, so I'll help you rake. That's what Sammy said. Then Mr. Lee had a thought he'd never thought before. I'm good at computers. Maybe I could fix Sammy's computer. Looks like he's knocking on the neighbor's door. Is that where Sammy lives? Do you think you know what Mr. Lee is going to offer to do? When Mr. Lee arrived, the Cohens were surprised. These are the parents, Sammy's parents, and the Cohens were delighted. And before you knew it, the computer was up and running again. Thanks, Mr. Lee. So that's something he could do, even when he had his cast on his foot. He didn't have to do too much. He set his crutches down right there. He was able to just lean over, get to the computer wires, and a little bit of that and a little bit of this, and he fixed it. When Mrs. Cohen, there she is, and there she is. Okay, when Mrs. Cohen sat down to check her email, she looked out the window and saw Ashley from next door riding a rusty old bike. Can you see? Let me kind of show you up close. Mrs. Cohen is looking out the window, and as she does, she sees this shadow or this image. It's Ashley from next door, and she says that her bike is a rusty old bike. Have you ever seen a bike that is older? It gets a little bit dirty, and that dirt doesn't always scrape right off or rinse right off. It's rusty. That's how old it is. Maybe it was sitting outside when it rained on it. Well, what will Mrs. Cohen think about it? I wonder. Then Mrs. Cohen had a thought she'd never thought before. We have a practically new bike that Sammy has outgrown. It would be perfect for Ashley. Oh, really? She's going to take it down and give it away? When Mrs. Cohen arrived with the new bike, Ashley was surprised. Ashley was delighted. Of course, wouldn't you be? She rode her new bike around the neighborhood, waving and smiling and calling hello to all her neighbors. How do you think that made Ashley feel? And look at Mrs. Cohen. How is she feeling? Kids, I want you to give me an answer. The neighbors were surprised. The neighbors were delighted. Everyone waved and smiled right back. Soon, even on gray days, Lancaster Street seemed warm and sunny. How had that happened? No one knew. Let me give you a close-up look. It's the same street with the same people, but something has changed. Did it change for the better? Is everything so much better? Not even Jake realized that it had all begun with a basket of mulberries and one good deed. Oh, this is cool. This is a picture walk. Let's walk through these pictures together. Do you remember at the very, very beginning of the book, Jake gave the mulberries. I think it was Mrs. Thompson. I think that was her name. And she's even going like this, for me? Why, thank you. And then she uses those mulberries to bake 2 pies. She doesn't keep them both for herself. She gives one away. Oh, and remember then he found the boys' basketball on top of his roof? So he took it down and gave it back. And then that inspired the boys to do a good deed, a favor for their neighbor. Let's rake the leaves. Let's get that job done. Yeah, we could help the grown-up. And then I think it was Mr. Lee who they helped. Then Mr. Lee said, I can do something too. I can help fix that computer I heard about. Yep. And then coming over, I think it was the Olsen's computer, and Mrs. Olsen felt she should maybe give something to help someone else. She gave the bike Sammy had outgrown, and she gave that to little Ashley, who was living on the street. Now, if you look at all of those things that took place, do you know how it all started? Because Jake couldn't even tell that it all started with his one good deed. And I love that, how it goes on and on and on. Yeah, and that's the end of it. There's a little bit of information for the grown-ups there. What could it be? That you do? What's your good deed gonna be? And then maybe that gets it going. I'm moving my fingers like I'm moving, I'm going, I'm getting the ball rolling. That's something the grown-ups say, get the ball rolling. So if you do a good deed, well, you know what? It could help the whole neighborhood, the whole street, definitely your whole house and everyone that lives there. Yeah. I want to spend some time thinking about what I'm going to do today. And sometimes those ideas just pop into your mind, and it's maybe a thought you had never thought before. Yeah, don't forget it. Don't push it away. Have some fun today. What could you do that would really help somebody else? Make them smile. Make them feel happy. Well, I hope this makes you feel happy. Why don't we finish right now with our Friends song? That was one of our very first songs, one of my favorites. And if that makes you feel happy, then you can go and make someone else feel happy too, okay? I trust you. I know you can be the source of good deeds. You can do it. All right, here we go. Get your fingers ready. These are going to be my friends. Let's use some sign language. Friends, friends, 1, 2, 3. All my friends are online with me. You're my friend, you're my friend. Clifford's my friend, you're my friend. Friends, friends, 1, 2, 3. All my friends are online with me. Kids, that was great. Good job. You sounded beautiful. Okay, have a really good day. Make today a day for a good deed. Bye for now.